Story number one. The woman on the bridge.
This is actually going to be my first Reddit post, and well, let's hope this story gets a good ball rolling. A few days ago, I was at my friend's house for a sleepover. Now, due to my mother being quite the paranoid person, I never really went anywhere, so this was pretty exciting for me. So I'm at my friend's house, and she's really excited and happy to see me. We hug and exchange some friendly conversation before she offers to take me to explore her town. For safety reasons, I'm not going to give the town name, but rather the province, Manitoba. I pack my bags into her room in the corner, and we agree to head out to go explore some neighboring woods and an orchard next to a field. It's currently turning spring here, so there aren't a bunch of leaves out yet, so you can see a decent distance into the woods. And well, for this incident, let's just say I wish the leaves were a bit more thick. She leads me through the dense woods, mostly fallen trees and bushes with hard branches until we come to a river. The water was flowing and it looked wonderful. This may not seem like much, but I rarely leave my house, so I enjoyed the little things like this. We begin to follow a beaten path along the river until we come across a large clearing. It was someone's backyard. Now in this clearing you could look straight across the river, and well, that's what we did. And that's also when we noticed him. Among the trees there were tied up tarps, and in front of them was this bare-shirted guy with a long scraggly beard. The instant we spotted him, he did as well. We held eye contact for more than a few seconds before getting the fuck out of there and onto the street. Feeling safe, we made our way downtown, still on the edge near the woods and such. We came across the town's train tracks. She insisted she'd show me them, and I agreed, and down the tracks we went. Not 500 meters from the road, there is this old wooden bridge, and that's where things got really scary for us. On the left-hand side of the bridge laid a body, motionless, and in a really awkward position. Seeing this, we stumbled back and proceeded to attempt to gain the woman's attention, but to no avail. In fear of the worst, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911 and explained to them we think we found a dead body. And during all this commotion, my friend spots a man coming from the woods. An angry, tall man. He walks faster and begins to yell and point at us. We couldn't make out what he was saying, but at the pace he was moving and the gestures he made, we didn't bother to stick around to find out. In fear, we fled down the road, operator still on the phone contacting the police. We hid in a nearby park as we watched the ambulance arrive and a single police car. We sat in silence as we watched more men move in, prepared for the worst. Minutes passed and the two officers emerged empty-handed. In curiosity and stupidity, we walk over to them and explain it was us who had called and asked what they had found. Nothing, the officers replied. Turns out there was no one there, the man nor the lady on the bridge. Unable to do anything more, they left and we continued our way uptown, making sure to avoid the woods. It still bugs me that I have no clue if that woman was okay or what the man did to her and where he took her. And what would he have done if we stuck around?
Story number two. Foot fetish photographer.
I'm a 20-year-old female who was invited to a formal party by a friend of mine. I was super excited since I never get invited to anything. I got dolled up and put on my best dress and shoes and had my friend pick me up. The party was at a space my friend's friend had rented out. It was sort of a large warehouse. There were drinks and food, etc., kind of what you would expect at a party. After a few hours, I decided I need to step outside for a minute and call my boyfriend. This is where things got weird. I was sitting right outside on the curb looking out at the parking lot. A short, dorky-looking Asian guy with thick-rimmed glasses had sat down next to me in an empty parking lot, which was already a red flag. I tried to ignore it. I mean, he wasn't right up next to me, but close enough to make me feel uncomfortable. It was maybe 30 seconds later I noticed he had a digital camera in his hand and he was holding it in an odd fashion, enough to where I could see the screen and realized he was filming my shoes. I was wearing open-toed wedges. I asked him just what exactly he was doing and his response was, "I would love to peel off your shoes and suck your toes for hours." I felt like vomiting. I stood up immediately, getting ready to go inside and tell somebody. I made it 10 feet when I felt him lunge on my back and start trying to rip off my shoe. I started screaming as loudly as I could and he ran away. It took a minute before anybody had come out, and by that point I was crying. We ended up calling the police and they looked around and took a report, but by that time he was long gone. It was just such a creepy experience, and I cannot fathom what a person like that's life must be outside of the weird shit he does. The police never contacted me again in regards to any information, so I have no idea what happened to him, and I hope he isn't pulling that with other people. Freaky fetishist. Let's never meet again.
Story number 3. My dad came a little late.
This story happened when I was about 16. I've been a lurker here for quite some time, and this is my first post. Also, English isn't my first language, so please excuse any grammatical errors. When I was 16, I was very involved in dance, and I took classes at my local studio around 6-ish. The classes lasted around 2 hours and was located at an area known to be populated by gangs. I got out of class about 2.5 hours later that night. The studio started to close up and I was waiting outside on a bench. I texted my dad to come pick me up and stared ahead for a while, waiting for almost 20 minutes. By then, everyone on the road was gone. It was then that I noticed someone directly across the street from me. It was hard to see his face, but he seemed about 20-something. Although I was kind of weirded out by this guy, I brushed it off and continued to stare at the ground while looking at him from the corner of my eyes. If he walked right by, I wouldn't have been scared at this point, but he was just standing there, standing and staring directly at me. I looked up at him, and it was at that point he decided to come walking across the street towards me. My heart started beating really fast, and I stood up next to the bench and started fast walking away. He smiled and started sprinting towards me while screaming, "Come back here, girl. Come back here right fucking now." I was crying and running as fast as I could while he slowly started gaining on me. He was still screaming while I suddenly saw my dad's car pull up. He quickly got out of the car and yelled at the guy, "Get the fuck away from my daughter," and brought out the baseball bat that was in our car. The guy backed away slowly and then ran off. I'm so glad my dad was there at the right moment, or else I don't know what could have happened. So, creepy guy that tried to chase me, let's not meet again.